actually nourishing fast or slow twitch muscles. That's not important for us. We'll just say there are these different kinds. And you can see these muscle bundles are shown here. So they're based on how fast their muscles contract. And also, when they contract fast, they use more energy. When they contract slowly, they use that less energy. What's the big deal? Well, if you ever thought tomorrow you're going to start training for a marathon, it's like what kind of energy are your muscles using? They're using some glucose, some carbohydrate. They're also using some fat. And the better your fitness level, the more fat your muscles are using and the less carbohydrate. That might be important later, but let's go on. And by the way, I'm going to keep my eye on if anybody puts a question in the chat, or if anybody, Barbara, in the room raises their hand, I'm good to stop. Okay. So one last chat about the different muscle types. Um, we're not going to worry about how it says over here pale in color. That's if you look under a microscope. And the slow twitch. So this is again the one who's using heavy, fast movement versus very slow ones. Okay. And then it says some people are born with a lot more slow twitch and a lot more fast twitch, one or the other. Okay. So that's muscles. And what do you need for muscles? You need protein. You need calories, because one of the points being made here is that different muscle types being built by increasing resistance still require calories, which come from carbohydrates and fats, and they require protein, but nowhere near as amount of protein most of us think. You don't have to triple buy a protein powder and have 2 scoops. It's probably already on your plate. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 2 kinds of supplements, 2 varieties. There's tons out there, but I thought these would be most useful. One is creatine, and the other is beetroot powder. So when it comes to before I do that, I want you all to be aware that you can go online to the Office of Dietary Supplements. And there are, well, I haven't actually counted them, but alphabetically, if we have 26 letters in the alphabet, there's well over 300, 400 different articles about different supplements. So it could be echinacea, it could be oregano, it could be vitamin C, it could be vitamin D, it could be creatine. And the good thing about it is each of the fact sheets gives information about the basic information about the supplement or the ingredient or the substance, whatever it is, and where you would normally get it. And are there any adverse effects from consuming it in high amounts? So please, you don't have to remember this URL, but if you just do a search, even on your phone right now, if you have, Safari, I won't be offended if I see anyone reach for their phone, and look up Office of Dietary Supplements, and then you'll see the list of fact sheets. I use it all the time. Okay, so creatine. This is actually from one of the links from the Office of Dietary Supplements. It's a compound made by our bodies, so we have creatine in our tissue. It's also found naturally in some foods, but mainly meat and fish. Once again, it's part of muscles, and therefore, when we eat mussels, we're eating creatine naturally. It's also, as noted here, a very popular ingredient in some dietary supplements. Excuse me. Oh no, she's going to start coughing. Okay. So creatine is only effective for explosive, high-intensity activities. Mind you, our bodies make it, and we use creatine during labor, which is a fairly unique event. We use the creatine when we rush to the bus stop, if we see the bus coming, if we're going to bother to rush. Not everyone will experience an improvement in performance by taking creatine, and some people respond better than others. The main supplemental form is something called creatine monohydrate. The most common form of this is the most common form in the store, and generally safe. So if you're asking yourself, am I going to get ready to tell you that you should go buy creatine? Not quite yet, but I think you should know that it is not exclusively as a supplement because we can eat it in our meals and our bodies do make it. So, it says less is known about long-term safety. That doesn't mean it's long-term unsafe. It just means research hasn't gone that far. And because there are more than 10 forms of creatine that are available, um, the summary seems to be that creatine monohydrate is probably the best. And if you look at it on a label, if you were thinking of buying it, and if you're thinking about it, I would run it by your primary care provider first. But you want to look for that. Um, I'm admitting someone from the waiting room. There we go. That's what you'll see on there, and it says 3 grams is a scoop of the creatine powder. All right. Now, as with every vitamin or mineral or other dietary supplement, there is no federal oversight for quality and safety. Let me say that again. There is nobody looking at these supplemental products on the market to say they're safe and they're efficacious, and that what you think you're buying is actually in there. And there are plenty of, I would say, more than just incidental reports of substances having contaminants or unreported ingredients or not being what you think you bought. Um, so you want to see that the supplement you buy has been checked by a voluntary agency. And in this case, you see there USP, NSF, and the other two. You can also go online, and there is a company called Consumer Lab, not Consumer Reports, although Consumer Reports is fabulous. And Consumer Lab has a modest annual fee, and they would provide a review of many different things besides just dietary supplements like coffee, tea, olive oil, avocado oil, things like that, because you will sometimes find that those products also, the oversight of the quality and integrity of the product is not in a single office. For example, the Food and Drug Administration might not necessarily be overseeing them. So you want a private firm to do it. So that's important. Next one is, it turns out that according to the Journal of Clinical Medicine, a 2019 publication, that the effectiveness of creatine supplementation on aging muscle and bone. I don't want to speak for anybody else in the room, but I can say I have aging muscle and aging bone, notably with focus on falls and prevention and lowering the inflammation. So this was a study that looked at 103 different studies. And here is their summary. It's a little wordy, but I think you should hear it. Creatine has the potential to decrease the risk of falls experienced by aging adults. Again, there's a few of us here in the meeting today, which would subsequently reduce the risk of fracture. And finally, preliminary evidence suggests that creatine may have anti-inflammatory effects during the time of elevated metabolic stress. What is elevated metabolic stress? You get the flu, you get COVID, you're experiencing an infection of some form. That's elevated metabolic stress, as well as extended exercise periods. So, creatine does not appear to reduce indicators of inflammation during resistance training. Once again, this is focusing on older people, and then I would say resistance training means you're using either a band or weights, and you are challenging your muscle to lift more and heavier. And that's the one I said that's what my friend looked under the microscope and she says, "Oh my God, it was shredded." It rebuilds, but while it's shredded, there's an inflammation, and that's why muscles feel sore. So it turns out the creatine in this 103 reference summary page, summary article, pardon me, said did not appear to reduce indicators of inflammation, but that's okay. That's what we've all been adding: ice or rest or something like that to recover. Did not appear to negatively affect markers of liver or kidney function. So what's the big deal? A lot of things, especially things that are pro-inflammatory, can influence liver function, not to the point of liver failure. Please let me not frighten you. But livers and kidneys are, they're tender. They're hardworking, and we definitely don't want to put anything in their way. Um, so it seems as though it did not negatively affect liver or kidney function. And future research should look to get objectively examine the safety and long-term effects of creatine supplementation. So I think the takeaway from this is that since we lose muscle and we are at risk for the falls and such, if we are working out, the creatine supplement might be good. But I would never recommend you take it. First of all, I am not licensed to prescribe, and they want to check it with your primary care provider. Doesn't seem to have any adverse reactions with other medications, but your provider should know everything you're taking. Okay. Did I walk out to the store and get creatine after preparing this? No, not yet, because you can still eat it. Although the emphasis here is that supplementing seemed to have an effect. We as older people are also at risk for something called sarcoidosis, and creatine seems to be possibly helpful with that. Okay, another supplement, beets. As a kid, I don't know whether they just look funny or what, but it was like, ugh. But now I love them. And beetroot powder and beet juice have been studied. Let me take a sip. Because they contain nitrates, that they help create nitric oxide, which is important for increasing blood flow and oxygen utilization in the body. So this sounds like too good to be true, doesn't it? Really, the humble beet? And one writer has a very silly phrase. It says it's like blood doping via a root vegetable. It's whimsical. I don't mind that it's there. Um, this is not specifically in older adults, but in just general studies of tissue and performance. So beetroot powder or beet juice can boost physical performance and stamina. By the way, the first paragraph I included because, again, it had a little whimsical thing. It seems to you have better performance in activities such as distant running and cycling, and then and other certain sweaty endeavors. I have no idea what they're referring to. We'll move on. The third bullet point says that beetroot powder contains micronutrients like if you're going to eat an orange or eat a cantaloupe or eat a sweet potato, all those foods, that's what it is, have lots of nutrients and other beneficial substances that are protective. And those are all there in the powder. So the question is, I think you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Well, let me get to the top of my slide first. The downside of beetroot, whether it's powder or juice or eating beets, is that they contain oxalates. And oxalates can decrease the absorption of iron from a meal and also may contribute to kidney stones. So if anyone has the slightest risk or experience with kidney stones, I'm not sure beets are your best bud. But then we're thinking, well, do I have to buy beetroot powder that is sold on Amazon or in the store? Can I eat fresh beets? Can I eat canned beets? Which one? And the answer is, if you're eating the whole food, you're getting more things that are more beneficial, such as the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber. The beetroot powder is simply a more concentrated version of the beetroot. And then you want to know, well, how much do I get? Because again, oversight is something that is voluntary. Yeah, yeah, voluntary. So keep this one in mind. Also, review it with your primary care provider that possibly if you just added beets 3 times a week to your meals, you're going to get that benefit of that nitric acid helping to lower blood pressure. I think that was in the previous slide. Increasing blood flow, increasing oxygen flow, and improving performance. Okay. So beets are the new superheroes. Okay. Step over orange juice, and what, anybody name any of the superfoods that are out there. Okay. So that's my reference to supplements that I thought deserved its own time. Creatine and beetroot. And I remember beet like a, not a jelly, but like a chutney. Does anybody else have ever had beet chutney? That was good stuff. Now we know it was good. The same thing when we had grunted through having to swallow a tablespoon of cod liver oil as kids. Now we know it's like it's a superfood. Okay, so let's move into food and online, because there's a lot of um, interest in the retail end of selling people products for improving physical performance. And protein powders are big sellers. If you have some complication of eating and digesting, then protein powder might be useful. But in other words, if you can chew, even modestly, excuse me, pup of water. If you don't have allergies to many, many things, you can just go ahead and eat chicken and fish and cheese and eggs and yogurt, and nuts and seeds and beans. You'll get your protein there. But okay, how much protein are we talking about? You will find that the basic protein recommendation, which is sort of called a minimum, where you would have 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. Who wants to do math? Okay, you have to convert your pounds to kilograms and then multiply, or 0.36 grams per pound of body weight. And that number exists in not in addressing gender or age. So it's the same number for kids, the same number for adolescents, the same number for older people. It changes during pregnancy. It's also the same recommendation, which is made by the World Health Organization. Okay. Yeah, fine. These are numbers, and these numbers are boring. So what does it look like for food? Well, every recommendation has a range because everybody has a different weight. So a man is generally going to weigh more than a woman at the same age. So if you say women from 50 to 70, men from 50 to 70, the numbers are going to be higher because men tend to be heavier. But let me offer you this very broad range of 55 to 100 grams of protein a day. As to say, don't get caught up in precision. It's okay to say, well, I had 55 yesterday and I had 100 the day before, and tomorrow I'll probably eat 70. You're still in a good range. But you probably are thinking, it's still numbers. Tell me what to eat. Here goes. So a piece of meat, like a chicken breast or chicken thigh or a piece of beef or a piece of fish, the size of a deck of cards, is roughly equal to 3 ounces cooked weight. And when I do nutrition interviews and I ask someone, compare what you ate to a deck of cards, they say, oh, easily 2 decks, because the deck of cards is kind of small. Someone says, if you offered me a dinner at your house and you put a piece of meat on the plate the size of a deck of cards, I'm going to give you side eye because I think you're being stingy. Truth is, that's really an adequate amount. So here we go. If 1 ounce of cooked weight beef, lamb, pork, veal, chicken, fish, cheese has about 6 or 7 grams of protein, and a deck of cards looks like a 3 ounce portion, you're getting somewhere between 20 and 23 grams of protein in a deck of cards. So if you have that much on a sandwich as chicken or tuna salad, and you have that much and maybe a half again in a dinner with as a chicken breast or a piece of beef, you are easily going to go beyond 55 grams. I'm not trying to say that was too much, just say you can be very confident that you're getting it. But remember, we have protein from lots of foods in our menu, not just the tissue of animals. So eggs count, nuts count, seeds count, yogurt. If you like Greek style yogurt, you know it's really regular yogurt that's been strained. So you're just getting more solid yogurt there, and the liquid whey has been put away somewhere else or going to another use. So if you have a half a cup of beans, which is another 7 grams of protein, or you have 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, which is another 7 grams of protein, easily you can get well over 55 and really close to 100, if not more, on an average day. And that will still be enough to support muscle building. So if you're going to physical therapy or you're going to work out and you want to increase your muscle density with resistance training, you'll get all the protein you need here. Now, you could also um, have an opportunity to chat with someone who is a professional trainer, and they will emphasize that you need more protein than just that. And I can tell you that balance studies have been done, and you basically measure how much protein is consumed, and then you collect urine and feces. Yeah, that's a fun summer job, isn't it? And the nitrogen is measured. And you may not actually use all of that protein just for muscle building, but it's good to have it because it's there for muscle building. Um, if you take in more protein than your muscles are going to use, the body simply converts it to fuel, turns it into another pathway where it becomes a source of energy. And it's okay. Your body breaks apart some of the nitrogen and excretes it and uses the rest of that protein as like it's sugar. Now, what's the downside of that? Well, protein is the most expensive form of calories we can eat. It's a form of protein foods, I should say. So if you're eating fish for the calories, you might as well just get rice or beets. Um, so the unused protein gets turned into fuel, which is okay, but you don't need to go crazy with it. Now, next thing is, here we go, carbohydrates, which are a really dietary, this is the foundation of diets all over the world. I think the thing that most of us need to kind of observe and think more about is to have carbohydrates that are minimally processed. So that's not so hard if you're buying fresh vegetables um like spinach is very low in carbs. I'm not even going to put that out there. Um but fruits and vegetables and beans and seeds like these are the most that's been done to these is they've been washed and packaged. Um but if you're getting Chef Boyardee or macaroni and cheese in the box, you're getting a little more processing. And the more I read in nutritional research, the ultra processing of food is not body friendly. So sure, we're not going to eat wheat right out of the stalk, not unless you're a goat. Okay, I did go to a goat farm for my birthday this August, and it was delightful. They do nibble on your sweatshirt, but let's move on. So these would be the simple foods. But if you do find yourself saying, I'm in the mood for tortilla chips, or I really would love to have, get my hands on some um, cookies, treats are not a bad thing. They just shouldn't be the staple. Now, um, protein foods can also be highly processed. And what I've shown you here are simple, right from the supermarket or the farmer's market, poultry, fish, beef, and or pork, lamb, and all those guys, eggs. It's the ones that have been salted and refined, like hot dogs and cold cuts, that are what are called hyper processed. Okay, is there an amount of carb you should aim for? No. Yes and no. It can be somewhere in the neighborhood of a third of your total volume of your plate. Sounds reasonable? And of course, you're going to eat things beyond just what you have at a meal, and they are often going to be carbohydrate based. such as something based with oats or wheat or corn. And all of those are really good foods. They're excellent sources of fuel and good sources of nutrients, vitamins, minerals. Um, so the next thing, we talked about protein, we talked about carbohydrates. Yes, we talked a lot more about muscles, but in this case, fats. And fat, although I have spent most of my years as a dietitian quoting the advice of the American Heart Association, which is bring your fat down, that isn't for everybody. So, most important message here today is that fat is good for us. It's a great source of calories, it's a great source of fuel. Now that people are using air fryers, I haven't joined that cult yet, but I'm told it's wonderful. You're gonna love it. Uh, but so oils that are high in monounsaturated fat, like the oil of olive oil or the oil of canola oil, oils like some people have a concern about seed oils. So I think there's a lot of options out there. Grapeseed oil, they're all good. You probably don't want to do crazy things like leave them in a sunny window because ultraviolet light will damage the oil molecule and make it rancid, what we would call rancid. It'll spoil it. And also, your oils are best if kept cool. So while sometimes I keep my canola oil in the refrigerator, sometimes I leave it on the counter. But in general, oils that are seed oils are happier, cool, and dark. Now, gonna go on to the next one. Of course, hydration. We're talking about muscle building and fitness. And when you're doing that, you're pretty much losing fluid because you're exerting. And the best fluid replacement is water. Now, do I have what if I've been sweating a lot and I've lost sodium through my sweat? You might not need, oh, I have another slide about that. You might not need extra electrolytes, extra sodium, extra potassium. But suppose you do, I will give you, and I meant to type this in, I think it was in a draft and somehow I left it out. A oral rehydration formula, which you can be fairly confident with, would be something like 10 to 12 ounces of water, a pinch of salt, and a teaspoon of sugar, or a teaspoon of honey. And just put that in a bottle, and that's like your garden variety, that's your homemade Gatorade. Or 1 part fruit juice to 4 parts water. And you'll be kind of having the same rehydration formula. But you don't have to go out of your way to salt food. Okay, so if we want you to focus on good sources of protein, good sources of carbohydrate that are not kind of carrying the burden of extra sugar and extra salt and extra fat. Treats are one thing, but we're talking staples. And you want to have body-friendly fat, you're gonna have to nibble in between the meals. So here's some ideas. Of course, I borrowed these images from Google, but they're great. Um, I don't would consider these like super expensive or out of reach. Yes, a pretzel has salt on it. Um, and as long as you don't observe me when the pretzel bag is empty, licking my finger and going to the bottom of the bag for the crumbs and the salt. Yes, I do that. But in general, this would be a combination of things that make for good, satisfying, nutrient-dense snacks or even many meals. I think we actually had a workshop on a mini meal versus a snack, kind of when one becomes the other. And these would make fine examples of foods, small amounts to have when you need a little extra food in between or following a workout. Um, there is a little bit of a science about working out, which is at the end of your workout, your body has started to rebuild your muscles. And that's when you can have protein. That's why I think a good cup of yogurt after your workout is good. And your body is also going to restore this other substance called glycogen. and that's made from adding carbohydrate. So a cup of yogurt or a respectable smoothie when you finish working out is a good item for you. I thought it was in my notes, but I'm thinking now the beet juice as a supplement or as a way to improve performance is best taken a couple of hours before the performance. Now, I think it's because it has to kind of get into the system where that nitrate becomes useful. Um, and the performance is like, is anybody here today going to do the marathon on the first Sunday of November? I'm impressed. I will be on the sideline cheering you on. Um, it's a marathon to get to the sideline sometimes. So whatever it is you're going to do, maybe if you do have physical therapy or you're going to work out with a trainer at a gym, or maybe you have someone come to your house, that's great. And you want to improve your oxygenation of your tissue and your blood flow, you might want to drink your glass of beet juice or eat your beets um, about 2 hours before your workout. Okay. Um, again, protein is important. You don't skimp on it, but don't lose your head trying to buy tons and tons of protein powder scoops. I think it's always better to eat food rather than take the supplement. Some protein powders have creatine added creatine added or vitamin C and vitamin A and beetroot. You can get all those things because remember, it's a retail interest to package more and more things that'll make you say, "Oh, I need that." That's what Amazon is, right? Okay, protein, carbs, and fats, and snacks, and hydration, and snacks. Now, again, I mentioned that you probably don't need to take extra salt or extra potassium or anything. You're just eating real food. But if you do take that glass of water, 8 to 12 ounces of water, a pinch of salt, literally what you can hold in the between your thumb and your index finger, and no more than a teaspoonful. Actually, a little bit less would probably be enough of some kind of sugar or sweetener or source of carbohydrate. Pop that in there. Okay. So while we're talking about working out, what are some exercises that are good for us? I got this from a source. This is not my original ideas. And I think these are also offered at RSS. So walking, Tai Chi, swimming, water aerobics. I don't think RSS does the swimming. Strength training with either bands or graduated progressive weights, Pilates, cycling, and chair yoga. Um, if anybody wants to form a cycling club, I'll join. Okay. So these are 7 that are good, and notably for seniors. The reason is that they won't generally aren't going to require extending the joints too much or movements that could be painful or uncomfortable. One of my favorites is this one called the 7-minute workout. Uh, now, the image that I'm showing you is obviously a young person with the perfect body, proportions. And I want you to see, however, that it's called a scientific workout because a performance lab determined that if you could do this workout in 7 minutes, you would work all uh, muscle groups of your body. So here's how it goes. For 30 seconds, you do jumping jacks. If I can only do 3 jumping jacks in 30 seconds, that's okay. It's 30 seconds of jumping jacks. And then 10 seconds of rest. And then 30 seconds of a wall sit. And then 10 seconds of rest. 30 seconds of push-ups. Now you could modify a push-up. You don't have to push your knees could be down. And if you only do one push-up, it's 30 seconds you're pushing. 10 seconds of rest. So you see how this is going. Abdominal crunches for 30 seconds, then 10 seconds of rest. This one says step up on a chair, but it's just a platform because by doing this, you're increasing the work of your quadriceps muscles. I have seen workouts on YouTube where these, I mean, superhuman people, who are these people, have really stepping up on a chair. And I said, no, Good for you. Not happening over here. A squat. Remember, important if you could get some coaching, that your fanny should not go below your knees. And if you have to squat 5 inches away from standing position, that's still a squat for 30 seconds. Okay. Triceps dip on a chair. That's to work again, the back of the muscles of the arm. A plank for 30 seconds, 10-second rest. High knee running in place, depending on your comfort zone, 30 seconds, and then 10 seconds of rest. Then the lunge, 30 seconds, 10 seconds of rest, push up and rotation, and then a side plank. So you can see how these are going to help build your body. You're using your own weight as a resistance, so you're increasing muscle muscle demand. Now the thing is, this is the 7-minute scientific workout. Some have said, well, it's really more than 7 minutes, because if you add up the time, and the recommendations are is that you do 3 cycles of it. So it's still more like 21 to 25 minutes. Okay, just do 7. But anything that one can do to improve the integrity of the muscle mass. And again, don't overdo it. Some reports have said, well, if you have high blood pressure, maybe you don't want to do plank, or some of these might be more difficult to hold your body in place. Again, review this with, if you can, a professional trainer or your primary care provider. And I think that's it. Yeah, the next one is references. So, Barbara, if you'd like, this is a good time for us to take some questions. You're stunned. Okay, Beverly.
Yes.
Yes.
I modify being 77 now and realizing osteoporosis has stopped my skiing and my ice skating, but I still want to be active.
Yeah.
So I go to a yoga class or even just do my virtual classes at home. I often do sitting for upper body and even adapt sometimes for the bottom. And some of those classes have taught me all of this. And then when I do a push up, I can do it against a ballet bar in the yoga class or against a wall, so that I get to understand which muscle groups you're working on and then try to activate those. And again, blood pressure. I just couldn't lean down because of the respiratory issues now and whatever before the reflux. So that I've adapted, and they allow me in the class and often will look at me and say, oh, and yes, by the way, you can adapt this and that, to try to give permission to other people to be kind to themselves.
Excellent. Absolutely excellent. I can say there are some YouTube videos that are normal looking people, in their living room in their sweatpants, and their shaggy dog will walk by and get in the camera. That's the inspiring stuff. And you're right. If you I'm not so good at getting back on the floor, getting up from the floor, I should say. Let's just say it's very inelegant. So that would be 30 seconds of just trying to stand up again. Modify, yeah. Oh, the room is full. Hi, everybody. Barbara, more.
We have a question here.
My blood work showed that I was a little low in sodium, and when my primary told me that, I said, should I add salt to my diet? And then he punted to the cardiologist. Ask your cardiologist. So when I did, the answer was drink less water. So I can understand why he thinks to drink less water, because then you urinate out all of the electrolytes, etc. However, it's important to hydrate. So it really, I'm not satisfied with the answer. Do you have any suggestion?
Wow, that one caught me too. So first of all, I would have to go to my sort of one of my medical textbooks. Okay, I always own, I'm a dietitian and I don't have a license to practice medicine, but I have medical textbooks, and take what is the inferences of low dietary sodium, and it usually would mean that it could mean that your blood is that your blood volume is higher, so the concentration of sodium in the blood is lower. But I don't know what to make of that either. That's a great question. Hey, Barbara, remind me so I can look that up as a dietitian, okay? And then I'll share.
Thank
Okay,
you.
sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Anybody?
Yeah, not drinking, cutting down on fluid, I don't know, sounds counterproductive. But I haven't been to medical school and I didn't do a residency in cardiology. The secret is out.
Oh, do you need to, do you want to stop the share so we can see you?
Ah, okay. I didn't think I was, every blue moon, I go onto Google and check something out. And let's see.
Okay, I think Beverly had another question.
Okay. Has the share stopped, right?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
we can see you big and clear.
Rather than reduce my hydration and my intake of water, I wear more pads. So that I might even have 2 or 3 and just slip one off and I have another one under there. So that I don't compromise being hydrated, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
Can you please repeat that?
What was
I don't
the,
know
what was
you
the
said.
statement again?
I just wear more pads in my underwear.
I say,
Yep.
yeah, I get it. I
And then
get
I
it.
could just take off one and then I still have more pads for the rest of the day because there are gonna be leaks, like this respiratory thing. Apparently, when I cough, I was in disaster. I was just at home.
Yep.
Married to the toilet. So after that antibiotic kicked in and I was much better and worthy to go out, I just do the same thing. Seems to help.
Isn't it fun being a mature woman?
Yeah.
You have to adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all feel it.
Thanks for
ask-
letting.
Could I ask a question about the protein? What, like I see on YouTube, this one man talks about not using pea protein, pre-baked peas, protein like plant fusion. Is that it? What is that about?
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
No, because
If we have somebody here.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a nurse and she has a very serious gut problem and has lost a lot of weight. And she was recommended to have the pea protein if she could handle it instead of Ensure to put weight on. So I guess because of it depends what your physiology is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
good. Yeah, thank you. That's
Anybody else?
what was for lunch today?
Salmon patties.
I missed it.
I did. Oh man,
Next time you come, we'll have to see you in person.
absolutely.
She was talking about the water before, how much, everyone says something different, how
That's
much
right.
is the proper amount of
Or is
water
proper
to
amount?
drink, you know? Yes,
Can you hear her?
Yes,
You heard her?
water. So I did a thing I for RSS months ago, and I still have the PowerPoint. And when I looked it up, and I was trying to calculate it and turn it into, a glass. It seemed excessive. It was like 90 ounces a day for women. 90 ounces is a lot. I don't think I can near that in 2 days. So partly 80% of our fluid intake comes from food. So when we eat an egg or when we eat, strawberries or a piece of chicken, there's water in those foods. But the other 20, did I say 80? I meant 20%. So the other 80 comes from when we drink a cup of coffee or tea, which counts towards fluid, as well as a glass of this or a glass of that. So you've all seen me, I'm sure, pull out my spaghetti sauce jar, which is an 18-ounce jar. And I hit and miss with also comparing to other people. If you normally have that glass of iced tea or that cup of coffee, and you take your 18-ounce spaghetti sauce jar and you refill it at least once, and empty it twice, you're within your goal. Now, I don't think any of us are going to go out in a heat wave and sweat profusely without having a water bottle, but that's when it is. But one of my husband's doctor is at the VA, and she said you would be astounded at the number of older people who are admitted to emergency departments for dehydration because you just feel tired and worn out and you just can't lift a leg. So we probably need to push more water, even if we think we drank to our thirst. We need to push more. Take your spaghetti sauce jar and make sure you refill it twice in one day, plus the other foods that you're eating. And that'll get you across the finish line.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, recently when I was checking hydration out, also, they said that coffee had a very bad rap to be a diuretic, but it actually hydrates. Tea, I believe, still is considered a diuretic, but it is a form of liquid. So I feel better about the coffee because I'm a coffee drinker. So.
You and me both. Yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. I thought it was maybe for RSS that I had a slide about, debunked that yes, it is a central nervous system stimulant, which means you will do everything that your body is going to do a little faster with a little more rigor. But your body acclimates to it, and unless you change your coffee amount significantly from one day to another, you normally don't excrete excessive amounts of fluid beyond what your coffee was. Does that make sense? Did I clear that up? So yes, rock the coffee. And plus, there's research about 3 cups of coffee a day is associated with better blood pressure. What? I had to bite my lip because I'm telling my husband, don't drink that coffee, you have high blood pressure. That no, I would open if you wanted to hang out, I would open Google and show you like references to that, but you can search that one too. Coffee lower associated with lower blood pressure. What? Yay, coffee. Okay, we're gonna do a show of hands. I am a coffee drinker. I only like black coffee, no sweetener, no milk. Do I have any friends today? Not a one. It's a small club. Everyone else, it's a little milk, a little sweetener.
Yes.
A lot.
And it's not coffee anymore.
Oh, Deborah, you have a question?
No coffee at all ever.
Oh, she's in a whole different club. No coffee at all.
Okay. So be it. Yeah. How about I mean,
Okay.
And tea drinkers, yeah.
Tea, do you drink tea?
No coffee.
No coffee, no tea, no coffee.
No tea?
So-
is it
Oh,
that you
okay.
don't like the flavor, or does it bother, gives you heartburn, or just don't like it?
Don't like
Don't
it.
like it, yeah.
Some of the creamers have high fructose corn syrup. What are your opinion on high fructose corn syrup?
So I'm actually getting a little more ferocious about it. I would have said in the past, total carb in a meal is the goal. Don't go crazy. But even the dietary guidelines for Americans are not saying have 14 grams of this and 10 grams of that, but just say eat healthier. And high fructose corn syrup is not on the healthy list. So I'm with you. I might have 2 years ago, I might have said, if it's just once a day, what's the big deal? But no, if you don't have to, leave it out.
Leave out what? Hydro what?
The cream.
Fructose corn syrup.
Right.
It's also very much it's a retail win because it's very inexpensive to produce. I'm not trying to say it's free, and there's always profit, there's always cost, but leave it out.
Okay.
Drink it black.
No.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen. All right, anyway, we're just about done, so any last questions? I think you were very thorough,
Yes.
as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Maudene.
know.
Thank you.
Except some in person.
Thank you for being there.
All right, we appreciate it. So, all right, have a safe trip.
Yeah.
Thanks. See you all. See you next time.
Thank you, Maudene.
Take care.
Loved your presentation as always. Thank you.
I thank you very much.
Oh, Zoom user, can you give me your name, whoever you are? Are you there? I think she left. Yep,
Okay, I'll cut off.
go. All right, take care.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right, you're welcome.
Sign
Bye.
it? Yes.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did?
everybody-
Oh.